I'm Shane Ramey. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast. And this week, I'm proving that your life doesn't change in big moments. It changes in reps. And if you're waiting for a breakthrough instead of building discipline, you might be waiting a long time. Reps over moments. And it's a talk that I recently gave when I attended Amplify Sober Voices and Podfest Expo last month in Orlando, Florida. That was the title of the talk, Reps Over Moments. And we're going to talk about that today. What is reps over moments? How can it help you in the long run? And so I wanted to start out today by sharing a quick story of my experience going out to Orlando. And it started in the Denver airport while I was waiting on a layover there. And was headed to Amplify, was excited, was waiting for an hour in the Denver airport, and I was just kind of sitting there, minding my own business, doing my own thing, and a guy sits down next to me, and he's kind of sitting there a minute, and he kind of looks at me, and I kind of look at him, and just kind of do the head nod thing, hey, didn't really say much for a couple of minutes, and he kind of broke the ice because I was kind of off in my own space. I really wasn't in the mood to really talk at that moment. I was just kind of chilling, and I was thinking about my talk coming up and kind of my schedule coming up. And he offers me a pretzel, believe it or not. He had this bag of like rolled gold pretzels, probably bought them at the little store there in the airport. And he goes, hey, he opens them. He goes, would you like a pretzel? And I kind of laughed inside a little bit. And my first thought was like, I don't know about you, but like if a stranger offers me a pretzel in a crowded airport, I get a little freaked out. Call me weird. Call me an ass. I don't know. But I don't know this guy. I don't know, like, is the pretzel poison? Probably not, right? But that's just stupid. Like, kind of stupid, but it's the first thing. Where's his hands been? Maybe he just took a leak and didn't wash his hands, and he's got his pee hand, stuck in the pretzel bag, and he's offering me one. I'm like, no, I don't want a pretzel. It's kind of sad, but that's the initial thought. I got to be honest, right? And then it flips immediately though, because that's kind of the mindset shift for me in a minute, and that's the worldly, fleshly mindset, this world, and then it shifts into a spiritual thought, which is, well, this could be the beginning of a great conversation. Who is this guy? Where is he from? Maybe it's a Hallmark movie starting all over again, right? They become best friends, take it to the max or whatever. And hopefully it's somewhere in the middle of that, right? So I politely declined. No, thanks, man. I'm good on the pretzel, but I appreciate it. And we start chatting. Oh yeah, what are you doing? Where are you headed? And I think he was headed out to Tennessee, or maybe it was Florida. It was Philly. He was headed to Philly to visit his son. And we got to chatting a bit. And it turns out the guy who offered me the pretzel, who I'm sitting next to chatting with, his name's actually Mikey Thalblom. And Mikey's the longtime visiting clubhouse manager for the Oakland Athletics, my favorite baseball team growing up, man. I spent a lot of time at the Coliseum. Also spent a lot of time at Candlestick Park for the Giants, but those Bay Area teams were a staple for me growing up as a kid, especially the Oakland Coliseum. And so Mikey's been the clubhouse manager for like 40 years there, right? Which was so awesome. And so we're kind of sitting there chopping it up a little bit. He shows me his 1989. You remember that, the Battle of the Bay? As a matter of fact, I just found the Battle of the Bay OG poster that my buddy Shane gave me from Vacaville. He found it at a swap meet or at a vintage market or something and hooked me up with it. And it's the original poster of the two roided out Giants and A's players fighting over the pennant or the World Series trophy. I can't remember exactly what's on it, but they're standing over the Bay Bridge and they're both in this tug of war over the championship. And it's just kind of one of those iconic posters. And, I grew up on that. That was also the year of the 1989 earthquake in San Francisco. and that was just insane. Like, it happened during the World Series. I remember the World Series getting blacked out, during, because it was like it was the opening ceremonies, I think, right before the game started, or maybe it had just started. I can't remember exactly. It's been a little bit. But man, just an amazing, tons of memories that were brought up. In talking to Mikey, he mentioned, oh, my buddy Bob, and turns out it was Bob Welsh who he was talking about, who wrote a amazing book. I don't have it in front of me. I didn't put it in the show notes today. I can't remember the name of it, but I know Bob Welch struggled with alcoholism for many years, and he ended up passing away due to that. And him and Mikey were friends, so he shared a couple of stories about that with me. And I mean, this guy's seen legends. He's seen McGuire. He's seen Canseco. He's seen dynasties. He's seen plenty of wins back then, and even a lot of losses in the years to come. It's been tough to be an A's fan for some time now, and they have some amazing players that have came up through that organization as well. And so there has been a lot of fun times and a couple little runs here and there. But just as a baseball fan myself, growing up, loving the game, playing the game, and following the Oakland Athletics over the years, and now they're in Sacramento. They're going to eventually be moving to Vegas, which should be fun. Hopefully, at some point when that stadium gets built, to go out there and go to some games. And so it was great to catch up with him. I told him a little bit about what I did for with Sober Guy, and where I was headed out to speak at a Podfest conference out there and amplify sober voices, which is how we kind of got into the topic of recovery and sobriety and all that. And it was just a great conversation, man. It was great to chop it up for a little bit. It wasn't long, maybe 15 minutes, and both our planes, ended up having to go the separate ways. But the point to this is, you don't know who God's going to put next to you at any one time, a complete stranger. And maybe they offer you some pretzels. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just want to chop it up a little bit. And one small rep, saying hello, having a pretzel or not, politely declining, whatever that looks like for you. If you're weird like me and you start thinking weird things at first, I think it's pretty normal. It's kind of funny. But those little things, just being open to conversate and seeing what God can do in not only your life, but somebody else's life, is absolutely huge. And it can open something up so much bigger. And I think this is so important in a culture glued to phones, where we got our face buried in our phone, or we got our headphones in, and I'm as guilty as anyone at this. So I just want to be fully transparent on that. There's times I fly often, and, I don't want to talk to anybody sometimes, but what God's been showing me lately is that it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about running either and trying to go talk to every single person that I need. That's not the point of this. It's just about making myself available for God to work. And that goes in all different aspects of life, making myself available for him to work through me as a kind of conduit. And that is the beauty of being in a place spiritually where at least we can recognize that, and at least we can know, that it's okay to be that way, and it's okay to sit in that and just relax and just be open to the fact that, hey, God has some cool things, and when we're not shutting down to it and shutting ourselves out to it, he can make some great things happen, some great conversations, some great friendships. And it's really a beautiful thing when you can sit in it like that. So we live, and well, let me say this too. You never know who God's going to put next to you. And I already said it. But we live in a time where, we'll sit and scroll for 45 minutes and get lost in ourselves. And I think the kids call it bed rotting. So maybe you can say airport rotting, or wherever you're sitting, glued to your phone, and you don't even look up and say hi, to the guy next to you. And it's something that is pretty common, and you see it more often than not. And I don't feel there's something wrong in that, in my spirit. And so I've been trying to do a much better job of that. And like I said, not trying to go talk anyone's ear off, solve their problems, or think that I have all the answers, or that I need to talk to everybody. But just being polite enough and just being aware enough and conscious enough that in any moment, whether it's in my town or whether it's when I'm traveling or at one of the kids' sports games or whatever it is, just being available to maybe let God work through some conversation, because I might hear something I really need to hear that day, and vice versa. I might share something that somebody really needs to hear that day. And that's important. That's what matters, and people matter. So reps aren't just at the gym. Okay. They're conversational reps, they're connection reps. They're being courageous enough to stand up and speak up. And they're sharing a piece of your story to a stranger, that might be exactly what that person needs to hear. And like I said, vice versa, you might hear something that you need to hear. And that brings me into Amplify Sober Voices. I wanted to talk a little bit about this just really fast and give a little shout out to the team over there. Brooke Riddell wrote, I think it's Riddell. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, Brooke, but Brooke was at the conference. She was doing some of the photos and videoing of that. So huge shout out to her for that. But she wrote a follow-up article. Your story is the catalyst, reflecting on Amplify Sober Voices. And I just want to take a minute to read a little bit of this with you. And I'll put the link to the article in the show notes, so it's very easy if you want to go check it out and get a little recap. I'm not going to read all of it, but it's a quick read, and I would highly recommend checking it out. But she says, for the longest time, the narrative around sobriety was one of hiding or fixing something broken. But being in that room, and let me say real quick too, that's one of the biggest reasons for me why I started Sober Guy. I still felt, even though I was like 6 months sober at the time, back in 2014, right before I started Sober Guy, I still felt like I was hiding something. And there was also no podcasts out there at the time that were talking about this openly. And so that's kind of how God led me to that next step of starting Sober Guy. But our stories create a massive impact, and our sobriety matters. And she goes on to say, but being in the room in Orlando, surrounded by hundreds of creators, speakers, and advocates, the energy was entirely different. It wasn't about what we lost. It was about what we gained and how we can use our voices to change the culture. And I want to point that out real quick. Very important. A lot of my clients, a lot of guys I talk to, that is the first thing we focus on. I focus on it too when I got sober. It's like, man, you're taking this away from me. Man, you're taking it away. My beloved alcohol, my beloved resource, my beloved tool to cope, to deal with, that's being taken from me. We have to be able to reframe that up. It's not being taken. It's not losing out. We're not losing anything. We have to focus on what we're gaining and what we're going to achieve now that we've cut this negative aspect of called alcohol out of our lives. And that is the most important thing. Reframe it. Says the power of together. The event featured an incredible lineup of speakers like Shane Raymer, that Sober Guy, Annie Grace, This Naked Mind, and Elise Bryson, the Sober Curator. Each speaker reinforced the idea that when we stop gatekeeping our recovery and start sharing our authentic journeys, we create a ripple effect, which is so true. The energy in the room was absolutely amazing. There was a lot of great people there, people sharing stories, connecting, and it was really, really cool. And just a shout out here real quick too, the visionaries of Sober Life Rocks. None of this would have been possible without founders of Sober Life Rocks, Laura Nelson and Margie Schaller. And shout out to Laura's husband, Chris, as well as Margie's son, Rhett, who are also involved and helped facilitate. And I know that they provided a lot of support there too. So, man, what a great event. There's more to the article, and I would highly encourage you to check it out. Like I said, the link will be in the show notes for you. But it was a great event. It was a great time, and we had a lot of fun. The energy in the room was amazing. The community, there's something powerful about being in a room full of sober people, sober podcasters, writers, influencers. Nobody's sloppy. Nobody's yelling. No, everyone's remembering what they're going to say for the most part. Man, what a great time it was. And so the talk that I gave there was titled Reps Over Moments. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that today because it applies to so many things in our life. And today I want to prove that breakthrough, it's not overrated. It's not overrated. It's definitely possible. Those breakthroughs are so attainable, so achievable when we open ourselves up and we have a plan, we have some support, and we have some goals set, and we really can be spiritually led. Viral moments, those don't build character. Sure, there's a quick dopamine hit, you get some likes, and maybe your video goes viral, whatever, but that doesn't build character over the long term. And then big stages, although they're fun and they feel good, we think we're on top maybe if we're on a big stage. I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in just a few minutes, but they don't necessarily make you legitimate. Reps make you legit. Over and over, the things that nobody sees, the behind the scenes stuff, reps, boom, build muscle. They build muscle, they build character, they build longevity. Man, one moment might get you some applause, but reps build the authority over the time. And that's one of the most important things. So I didn't start this out with a message when I started Sober Guy, man. I didn't really have a message. I knew what I wanted to kind of talk about was about, like, hey man, I don't know where I'm at right now. I'm cutting out alcohol and it's kind of crazy. It's weird. I didn't start with really a design message though. I really started with the mess. And I was trying to stop running was a big part of this for me. I developed a habit at a very early age of escapism and being able to run. Just growing up in an alcoholic household, and with a lot of love, but a lot of chaos at times, and not shitting on my parents. I always say that I love both of them more than anything. But man, it was a little rough growing up, and they were young, and I've been able to accept that and give them grace for that and understand, especially from a parent perspective. Man, being a parent is hard. And I understand now that they were both just doing the best they can. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're struggling, you got a parent who maybe you still have some resentments towards, or there's things that happened as a kid. I'm not saying things that happen to people, sometimes they're terrible. Sometimes they're not okay. It's not a free pass to make those things okay. But at some point, we have to find it in our hearts to understand and to somehow be able to forgive. And if it's so bad, it's not able to forgive the person, at least we forgive ourselves and we're able to move on from that, because that holds us captive, that victim mentality, for so long. And it's absolutely devastating in pursuit of our purpose, man. It can really, really hold us back. And that's why a lot of people turn to alcohol or drugs to escape from that. So I get that. But I had to stop running myself. I had to stop pretending that alcohol wasn't absolutely just having a huge negative effect on my life, on my marriage, on my ability to be a father. I didn't build a podcast because I all of a sudden had this like clarity. I built it because I was still kind of navigating through this chaos, and imposter syndrome was absolutely real at that time. I don't know if you've ever struggled with imposter syndrome. I'm sure most of us have at some point, whether it's with a job, whether it's with a relationship, it's with a hobby, like we're doing like podcasting, for instance. I was like, who am I? Like who's going to take this serious? Who is going, like, everyone's going to say, who do you think you are? All those negative thoughts, those self-degrading thoughts, they were there. And it was hard to overcome those, but I was very motivated. I was very excited. I was very motivated to find something to fulfill that creative side of me, because I had given up music at that time as well, which was a huge part of my life. But I didn't wait necessarily to feel ready. I just dove in, because if I would have waited to feel ready or perfect, I never would have got it done. And I see so many people do that. They wait around and it's an excuse. Oh, I got to get it perfect. I got to get it perfect. And I'm guilty of this too. Like, it's got to be this way or that way. And so you just never take action because you're too scared to take action. So you hide behind the fact that it's got to be perfect in order to start it or to continue it or whatever that looks like. You just got to start. You just got to dive in. God didn't want us to be perfect before we surrendered to him. He said, come as you are. And that's not a Nirvana. I mean, it is a Nirvana song, but not in the same tense, but or same way. But that's kind of interesting, actually. It's like one of the first things I thought of as well. That song, "Come as you are." But man, Jesus told us the same thing. Like, come as you are. You don't have to be perfect. You're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect. Perfection is the enemy of excellence. But I didn't build it I didn't start the podcast because I was ready to go. I was not ready. I had no idea what I was doing. I hodgepodge a bunch of equipment together that I had from my music background, and boom, I was up releasing, episode 1 in 2014. And it was crazy at that time. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew that I was on the right path. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know what, but I knew I was on the right path. And most importantly, I knew I was about to have some fun. I was really excited to have fun. And that was a big part of it. And I still have fun even after doing this for, I don't know what, 11, 12 years now, 10 years. I don't know how long it's been, somewhere around there, over 10 years. I still have a great time doing it. And that's why I continue to do it. But that imposter syndrome, don't let it stop you in your tracks. Get going, get those reps in, and don't wait for it to be perfect. That's like waiting to get in shape before even going to the gym. Like, that's not how fitness works. That's not how building muscle works. And you got to put the reps in, and it takes time. It takes patience. It takes hard work. It takes navigating through some of the ups and downs. And let me kind of share a little story here. Let me take a little sip of coffee here. And I want to share a story to paint this picture for you on how imperfect it was. So one of the early podcasts I did was with a comedian who I actually met when I first got sober. His name's Mark Lundholm. He's from San Jose, California, and he's hilarious. Great dude. Got a ton of great work in the treatment industry, in the sober community, and he's hilarious as well. But I had scheduled an interview with him. I think it was somewhere in the episode 30, somewhere around there. And so you're probably thinking, yeah, I was in a studio and, this great, podcast. And absolutely not. I was getting reps in. And at that time, I was working in a customer service office in Napa, California, driving a little single Chevy S-10 single cab truck with no AC in it. In the summertime. I believe it was in the summertime at this point. And I had scheduled him for like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And I parked under some shade in a tree that day, right on the other side of the Walmart parking lot. And I have my little locker room recorder, I call it, a little Sony pocket recorder. And I call it the locker room recorder because I would always see sports guys interviewing athletes after the game with this little recorder. And somehow I had figured it out to where I could plug it into my iPhone, which is probably like an iPhone, 6 at the time or something. And I sat in my little Chevy S-10 with my little locker room recorder plugged into my phone. And I interviewed Mark Lundholm right there. And the audio quality was terrible. And I had no validation. I didn't really have an audience at that time. There was no algorithms. There was just reps. Just me sitting there getting more reps in and practicing the art of the conversation and getting to know Mark and providing a very small platform at that time for him to share some of his experience and some of his hope and some of the things he had been through. And he has a very, very powerful story. In fact, I believe that he shares on that episode, at one point he was in a bus stop in Oakland, California, and he put a gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger and the gun jammed. That's how crazy this dude's life has been. And you hear that kind of stuff and you go, oh my gosh, like what, like how, how? And so regardless of the fact the audio quality wasn't great, I was in a parking lot, in a truck, on this little recorder. The story was amazing. And that's what matters. That's what connects with people. And I've had a lot of people reach out who went back and listened to that, who it really impacted, which was great. So from there, I start to go down and I start getting bigger guests and I start getting sponsors, right? We were sponsored by Foundations Recovery Network. We were sponsored by Promises Behavioral Health. We were getting flown out to these huge conferences and doing live podcasting there. I did shows at the Hollywood Improv and had, famous comedians come out and sports agents and writers. And man, it was just a great time. And doing these live shows and, getting the feedback and even some accolades. If I'm going to be honest, it felt really good. And every single time I would think, this is it. And this is probably like 2017, 2016, 2017, 2018, right around in that time, 2019 even, right before COVID. We almost did the last conference, but it got canceled. But all of these things kept happening and they were great. But I would think at the time, I would say, this is it. Especially like the Hollywood Improv. Oh, this is it, man. This is it. This is going to be huge. We're going to get a big draw. I'm going to have, the podcast going to blow up. This is the moment. And then nothing happened. Nothing dramatic happened. No fireworks, no instant viral, videos, no instant transformation, not 1 million downloads in one episode. And so it was quite discouraging at that time. And it wasn't the fact that, that it wasn't happening. It was I was setting these expectations and they weren't meeting what I thought they should be. And so it could be a little bit disappointing. Oh, I'm going to quit. Screw this. I'm done. I went through that whole thing too. And what I came to realize over time, after going through all that so many times, after finally getting paid, for the Foundation's recovery, the last conference that they were about to put on, I was actually they had always paid for my travel and to go out there, and I'd bring my family out there. Everything was paid for, which is amazing. But I was going to go out for this last one in 2019 or 2020 and do the conference. I was actually going to host on the main stage, and they sent me a check for like $5,000, to host the event. And then COVID hit. And I had to send the money back, number one. And then I didn't get to do the event. And that was going to be my big moment, my big break. And man, it was so disappointing. I just remember being so disappointed and kind of angry, and back to that, I'm going to quit. Like, screw this. Why am I even doing this? And I was forgetting that, like, number one, I have fun doing it. Number two, gosh, I mean, the podcast, all the guests we have, this platform, the community, it helps a lot of guys out there, which is amazing. And it helps me. And that's why I started doing it. So I'd kind of forgotten that along the ups and downs of the business side of things. And so to bring this all back, it comes back to reps again. It comes back to reps. Moments feel powerful. They feel great, right? Like I said, the accolades, the moment, whatever, but the reps are in the power. The reps are in the power. And, we've been trained by social media to believe that like this one clip is going to change our lives, right? We need to go viral, and you got views and likes, and all that stuff's great. Like, it's great. Like, and people do go viral and blow up. I totally get it. But the guy quietly doing push-ups every day, a little bit at a time, and just keeping it to himself. And, and when I say push-ups, I'm using that as kind of an analogy, not literally. I mean, that's great too, but the guy doing the reps day in and day out, staying true to his craft, staying true to his game, staying true to his community and to himself. That is where it's at. That's the secret sauce, if you want to call it. And it's not sexy. It's kind of boring some days. It's the same old shit some days. And I get that, but that is where success and growth is built, because it's built in the long game. It's not built in the short game. They say this is the old saying, this is a marathon. It's not a race, right? It takes time. It takes reps. It takes practice. It takes failure. It takes success. And when you fail, you get your ass back up and you keep going to find that success, because eventually you will succeed. And I believe that success are those failures and those ups and downs along the way. I don't really think the success is at the end. I mean, sure, that's great, but you hear so many athletes, who was it? Someone, I can't remember an interview I saw recently. They said, man, I won the Super Bowl. It was great. I was on cloud nine, and I thought it was going to fulfill everything in my heart and my dreams, and my dream had come true and all this stuff. And then the next day I woke up and I felt empty again. And that's because it's not the destination. It's the journey to get there. That is the special part of this. And that's what most of us miss along the way. So you can take these analogies and apply them to sobriety, to working out, to speaking, to your business, to your family, to your relationship with your wife, your ability to be a father, whatever it is. It's reps. Reps over moments. Reps over moments. So let me give you a quick data point, a quick stat here. And this is pertaining to podcasts and why people quit, why most people quit. All right. So you have 3 million podcasts out there estimated right now, right? Only about 1 to 2% of those are active, and 90% quit before 10 episodes. That's crazy, right? 90% quit before 10 episodes. So that's not a talent issue. That's not an intelligence issue. That's a commitment issue. Most people don't fail because they're bad. I mean, there is some, there's some subpar stuff out there for sure. Like, no doubt. I was very subpar when I started. I've gotten a lot better over the years. I still think I need to improve and get better. I try to get a little better every time. But most people don't fail because they're subpar or they're bad. They fail because they expected, this huge, grandiose fireworks show, before they put the reps in, before they met the friction. Okay. And so here's kind of a tie-in to sobriety with this and to kicking alcohol and giving up those old bad habits and going down a new path where you have clarity, where you have, you're at your top performance, you have energy, all those great things. People want breakthrough. Sorry, I had a little brain stop there, but people want breakthrough before they put the work in. People want one meeting just to blow it up and to fix everything. They want to go a couple of times, to a meeting, or they want to have a couple of coaching sessions, or they want to just quit for 2 weeks on their own and, then they're good. And then they fall right back into those traps, or one big prayer, or one rock bottom moment. That's not you. I mean, it's not to say that people don't have one rock bottom moment that turns it around. I do believe that. And I do believe one emotional prayer can be answered. So that's not what I'm saying here, but what I'm saying is that's not common. It doesn't always happen. It doesn't happen often. Sobriety, like anything else, is reps, 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 reps over moments, daily surrender, daily boundaries, daily discipline. Daily discipline. We're taught to worship those moments, unfortunately. We don't see the behind the scenes work that goes in to something, to somebody's craft, to somebody's success. Modern culture sells us overnight success, overnight transformation. This one quick trip or quick tip, quick trick, whatever, changed my life. Now, does that happen sometimes? Sure. Is it common? Not really. Not really. Here's the reality of it. Your marriage is reps. Your marriage is reps. There's a great video by Simon. I can't remember his last name now, but he asked this guy, he says, "Do you love your wife?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." And he goes, "Well, how does she know you love her?" He said, "Why? I don't know." He said, "Well, what, do you just wake up and you just say, 'I love you'? We're in love and she's in love?" No. Over time, you brought her flowers. You took her on a date. You opened the door for her. You listened to her. You wined and dined her. You loved on her. You supported her. You were there for her in a tough time. You talk encouraging to her. You encourage her craft, her whatever she's doing. I'm just giving some examples here. Those are reps. Your marriage is reps. And is there hard times where you argue and you disagree and, you got to work through things? Absolutely. Those are reps too. Jess and I did a couple of different step studies together. We did a CR step study, and then we did another marriage group called Intimate Encounters, and they were both amazing. And they were both really, really hard. They were huge commitments. They were huge commitments. And, one of them was 9-month commitment for the CR step study. And I remember we would take the kids to my mom's like every Tuesday night, and we'd drop them off there, and then we'd go do our group, and then we'd pick them up. And it was exhausting sometimes. It really was, but it was reps. And over the course of time, completing that was a huge accomplishment. And not only did we work through some things in our own personal lives and in our own marriage, but we also learned the value of commitment and the value of showing up when you don't want to necessarily always, and the value of putting in reps. It takes time. I used to have in my old office, I should probably put it up again somewhere in here. It just said, just show up. Just show up. And I love that motto because it's so true. Just show up and God will do the rest. But your parenting, reps. Your business, reps. Your faith, reps. Your health, reps. Everything is reps. If abs or muscles were built in moments, Planet Fitness would just hand out trophies at the door and a $10 fee, for the monthly fee or whatever gym you go to. It's not, it's reps. It takes time. Doesn't matter what gym you go to. You could do a home gym, whatever. It doesn't matter the place. It matters the reps. And so just like, and let me, actually, I should say this too. The form matters as well. Your form matters, right? So you got reps in there, and we'll apply this back to a lifting. Let's say you're doing squats, right? You want to keep the back straight. You want to keep the shoulders back. I always say like you're pinching or deadlifts is a good one too, but you're pinching a pencil between your shoulder blades. I'm kind of doing it right now while I'm kind of talking this out, and your head's up and your back is straight, and you want to get, good form. Your form matters. And I'll tell you my three points of form, at least for the podcast, for Sober Guy, for me in general. Authenticity. This is my form. Authenticity. Say what's true. Value. Leave people better than you found them, right? And want to provide value to the people who spend their valuable time listening to the show. And I want to give value to my clients who come to me to help them get through 90 days alcohol-free. That's huge. I want to give them the best value. I want to give them the best authentic Shane Raymer self. I'm going to be honest to them and with them. And then I want to be consistent. I want to show up whether it's glamorous or not. And usually it's not. It's just reps. It's showing up and putting in the work. And that is the hardest thing for people to grasp. It's the hardest thing for people to do. It's hard for me to do sometimes, but I'm at a point now where I know that is the secret sauce. And like I said, it's not sexy. It's not fun a lot of the time, but it's the truth. And that is what separates success from failure in a lot of ways. So a sober man who's consistent becomes dangerous, and not a chaotic dangerous per se, but more of a focus, more of a clear. He's got clarity in his life, and that makes him dangerous. So let's talk about the identity shift here, and then we're getting close to wrapping up. Reps change identity. Okay, reps change identity. You don't. Like, you can think your way into a new life. You can act your way into a new life. And the thinking part of it is a huge, I really do believe in prayer, the power of prayer, that the power of visualization, the power of being able to project. I think the power of using words, affirmations, verbiage is very important. I believe our verbiage creates our reality. What you say, what you think, that shapes how we perceive this world, this life. And it's very, very true, because I think so. At least I've had it happen so many times. You're on a negative wavelength, negative shit's going to happen. You're on a positive wavelength, most of the time positive stuff's going to happen. And if it doesn't always end up positive, you still are on a positive wavelength, so you can figure out how to see it from a positive viewpoint. You can see the glass half full instead of half empty. So sobriety, being a sober mind, having a sober, alcohol-free lifestyle, that is identity training in itself as well. That's why you say you find the authentic, you hear, and I've said it many times, you find the authentic self when you cut the alcohol out. Every alcohol-free day, you're casting a vote for the man that you're becoming. Does that resonate with you? Did you hear? Let me read that again. Every alcohol-free day, you're casting a vote for the man that you're becoming. You don't build strength in applause. You build it in obscurity. You build it in reps. So let's bring this back to where this started today at this episode. I'm sitting in the airport in Denver, Colorado. In one conversation, one offer of a pretzel, one small rep. You know, that moment didn't define me. It didn't define Mikey. It didn't, we didn't end up having a hallmark moment. I haven't talked to the guy since. We did exchange cards, and who knows if we'll ever meet again. I don't know. Be cool if we did. Maybe I'll see him at spring training one year or something, or at a game. I don't know. But the willingness to be open was awesome. God works through those reps in small conversations that have impacts on people. Discipline compounds over time. Legitimacy is earned in the long game. It's not built overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. Viral doesn't equal valuable. Okay, so we're striving for those likes and all the videos and the stuff. And it's one of my least favorite things about this business, at least in whatever business you're in, is having to do the social media part of it, because 99% of it is fake. And that's another thing I talked about in the talk that I didn't really get into here today. But, all that stuff, most of it is fake. It's not reality. It's not reality. The reality is what's right in front of you. What's important is right in front of you. What's happening in your house, on your street, in your community, not what's going on in all the other countries and all the bullshit on TV and on the media and on X and the up news stuff and the conspiracies and all this stuff. And I've said this like 3 times today. I'm guilty of it too, because I am. I'm just as guilty of it. But I think the difference is being aware and being conscious of it and knowing like where you're at in your own space, in your own life, in your own reality. That's what's important. And the boring daily reps is what makes you strong. Doing the same thing and, mix it up. I'm not saying it has to be just absolute lame. Like I got to switch up my workouts. I switch up things that I like to do. I try to switch up the routes sometimes, the routines. Maybe it's on a walk. I'm going to go a different way. I mean, that's one little example. Things can get boring after me. You got to switch things up, but it's the consistency in whatever it is that you're doing. That's where you're going to see the success. So stop waiting for your big moment. Moments are loud, reps are quiet, but reps is what changes your life. So start stacking those reps. Start stacking those reps. I hope something spoke to you today. Join the Victory Circle, our free digital men's community, for more tips, more connection. You can connect with high-performing dudes out there who are living alcohol-free. You can find that, as well as all of our other resources. You can sign up for our Sober Executive Performance Reset. We're taking applications for that as we speak right now. You can do all that at thatsoberguy.com. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Shout out to Believe Network. We appreciate those guys as well, having us on their network. And really am happy to be there and just, appreciate their support. So take care. God bless. Till next episode, keep your blood clean.